Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Pride Has Spoken. My name is Matt Scott. I am one of your co-hosts, joined by Dr. Evvie Jagoda and also by Grace Leader here for the final episode of this series of The Pride Has Spoken. All month, you've been hearing us talk about Survivor, with survivors, with podcasters, and we've loved having you on the journey along the way. Today, we have something very special in store. So, before we get to the bulk of this episode and all it has in store, I want to hand it over to you, Grace, to tell the folks a little bit about what we want them to know before we dive in.
Yeah, so I've been so happy to hear people reach out to us on Twitter to say that they have enjoyed the series. They feel like they're seeing themselves in a conversation that's happening on this podcast. It's so delightful. And what I have extra enjoyed is seeing people rock their Pride Has Spoken a merchandise, which we, with the work of Tricky, who is the graphic designer here on Rob as a Podcast, designed a lovely logo for the Pride Has Spoken. All three of us, if you're only listening on audio, are all wearing our shirts as we speak. And we want people to continue to buy shirts. If you haven't got one yet, you can still get one. And we're hoping to raise some more money for Gender Benders, a charity that supports trans and gender nonconforming folks in the United States, doing advocacy, education, and support, as well as running a summer camp called Camp GB. Camp is near and dear to my heart. So I think at some point we were close to like $1,000. If we could get over that $1,000 mark, that would be
we will.
Tremendous treats. You can get it in any color you want. You can get it in kid sizes. You can get it on a mug. But you should get your Pride Has Spoken merch and rock it. All three of us have been given many compliments on these shirts because they're really cool. That's for you to enjoy. But today, because you're listening here, we have a delightful episode. Evvie, do you want to let us know what we're going to get into today?
Yes, I am so excited to share this episode with you all. It's a little bittersweet because this is the last one, but I think we have a really amazing episode for you all. So the first thing you're going to hear is a conversation that I got to have with a fellow season 41er, the challenge beast, the silver hair fox himself, Mr. Ricard Foye. And it was really special to have that conversation. You know, obviously we were out there together. And so that's a very special thing. And I really hope you enjoy hearing all about that. And Ricard is amazing and shares a lot of stuff, talks about his family, and it's just great. So don't hang up, don't stop listening right now. To be sure to listen for that interview. And then after that, you have an extra special treat that, we can only interview in log format as so many people, but we really wanted to try to get as many of the amazing LGBTQIA plus survivors throughout Survivor history as we could. So after Ricard's interview, you'll hear several, I don't even know how many we ended up with, like 15 maybe. A lot of amazing voice clips from a lot of different survivors. I think if you are a Survivor fan, which you obviously are since you're listening to this, you will be pretty excited to hear all the voices that will be coming your way in the second part of the episode. And then you'll probably hear the three of us debriefing it a little bit and saying a little farewell. So that's what's coming at you.
Yeah, and stick around to hear all about it. Hear from Ricard, hear from everyone else. And as a reminder, of course, before we dive in, use hashtag The Pride Has Spoken on social media. You can also use hashtag Survivor, hashtag RHAP. Let the people know that we're here. And spread the word. Let us know what you love about the episode. Let us know what resonates. If there are any quotes that jump out, post those. But without further ado, this is Dr. Evvie's conversation with Ricard.
It is my absolute pleasure to welcome to the Pride Has Spoken the one, the only, the silver fox of Survivor 41, the challenge beast himself, Mr. Ricard Foye. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
It's so fun. I mean, we haven't seen each other in a minute. It's fun to see your face. Hello.
I know. The last time I saw you, I was like laying in bed saying goodbye to you after the finale.
Yes. It was a big night, big day after night, and it's nice we've had a little space. And now we get to just chat, which is a nice feeling. And 42 is over too, officially the off season.
It was almost officially the off season, and then that Sia thing happened today.
Yes, we're recording. This is probably old news for people listening to this podcast now, but Sia, she's back. You know, she's I mean, congratulations, Drea. She didn't watch 41, money. I guess, but that's okay.
She's busy. She's busy.
she's busy. She really is. But so you know, what we're trying to do with this series is really celebrate the luckily at this point many LGBTQIA plus survivor players, and also like the many LGBTQIA plus survivor audience. And I just think it's really special to get to have like two players from the same season, both of whom are part of this community, chatting to each other. Like, I just think it's really cool we've made it to this point in Survivor history, you know?
I know. Like, what's so funny is the beginning of my Survivor experience, especially with Jeannie being on my starting tribe. All I could think was, what are people going to think if we don't work together? What are going to people like? What like now? There's a new pressure because before when I was preparing for the game, I was like, I'm going to be the gay, the one gay person.
Right.
People are either going to love me or they're going to hate me because I'm the one gay. And then I meet Jeannie, and now my mind has shifted to, am I going to disappoint the queer community if we're not working together? Do I need to do what's best for my game, or do I need to represent, you know, my intersectionalities? Like, how do I do this? And I think we saw throughout specifically our season how complicated that is with the Black Alliance, you know, with all the POCs. Like, what do we choose? What's best for us, or how to represent us?
No, absolutely.
It was a tough decision. I remember when we made Merge together. And I already had my hand in a lot of different jars, and I didn't like, it was hard to jump ship in the first place. But then I was like, we have this in common. Yeah. Should I focus on this? And it was tough. It was really tough.
Right. And with like all the dynamics, I mean, specifically with us, it was like, oh, maybe we could work together. And then just like, boom, like twist, like really, no, we can't. You know what I mean? And I feel like that, but that's Survivor, right? Is that you can have your grand vision of what you might want to happen, but then like the game comes at you. But I'm so glad you brought up Jeannie, because I was really wondering, because like, I mean, I obviously wasn't there for that, and we didn't really get to see much of you and Jeannie on the show. Like, how did you two both, I guess, like, did you guys like come out to the group? Like, how did it kind of come up that you were both part of this community? And like, obviously it sounds like it felt like pressure on the game, but like on a human level, kind of what did that feel like, you know?
So, it was actually exactly how it played out in the episode where we're building our shelter. Sarah and Shan are asking us, you know, we're all just talking about our lives, and it came up in that same moment. We hear Jeannie talk about her marriage to her wife and how they've been together forever, and such a beautiful story. And then right afterwards, we talk about me being married to my husband, at the time 6 years. It all happened very, very quick. We all bonded in like 30 minutes actually, it was probably like 9 hours of leaving those damn palm fronds, however you say that word. It was pretty quick, but it's funny that we all got to know each other's backstory after the lines had already been drawn in the sand. Like, at that point, I was already with Sarah.
Wow.
At that point, Brad was already with Jeannie, and then Brad was already with JD. Like, it was too late. It didn't matter anybody's backstory. We already had a plan. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. And like, I think, it's just, it's such a layer to have like be holding identities on the show. And I think something I was thinking about, you know, in terms of especially queer identities, like, I feel like something like I feel like was amazing about your story on the show, but also I'm sure was a lot, is that you're holding, you know, your own identity and, you know, being your queer self, and then also like your whole family and Andy and your like beautiful queer story of that at the time he was literally pregnant with your second child. And like, I mean, like going into the show, I think you said you weren't sure if you were going to like share that with other people, right? Could you just like talk a bit? I mean, it's just like, I don't even know where to start, because I feel like that's so much, you know?
I wanted to play it by one deaf ear on if I wanted to tell people.
Mhm.
But there was already too much. I knew my story was too much to start with the fact that I was going to bring up me being hard of hearing. I was going to bring up about him being trans in the first place and him having my daughter. Then this added element of how vicious of a player am I that I'm willing to miss the birth of my baby to play this game. I'm willing to do anything then. So I knew I was never going to share that element. I wanted to share a little bit more about wanting another baby and like kind of feel it out a little bit, but I knew I was going to keep it a secret until the end at least. Because I thought I was going to say it at Final Tribal. I really did. I said it at my Final Tribal, but not the Final Tribal.
It would have been such a Jeremy Collins 2.0, right?
I know. That's why. I don't know if you remember this. I skipped to the voting podium.
Yes, I did.
And I remember Jeff saying, that's never happened. And all I could think was, yeah, it did. Jeremy did it.
Right.
I was so annoyed.
Right.
But yeah, it was just, I had a lot of backstory that came along with me. And what's so weird about it is I answer the question of where do my kids come from so much that I don't even really say my backstory with emotion. I feel like I'm just a robot of this. He's trans. He carried this, because straight people take for granted the little moments of just being a normal human. They take for granted just the assumption actually being correct. So the assumption with me is always, oh, you must have adopted, or you must have had a surrogate, or where's the kid from? That's the automatic assumption. And just, even though it was hard having my life be on the big screen, as you know, or silver screen, however you say that.
It was big enough, you know?
It was big. I've had so many of the moments I've wanted I'm getting emotional, of my moments I've wanted my whole life, of just not having to explain my backstory, see the people's faces, and then be treated a version of normal. I actually had people who, first of all, know how to say my name. That's been a thing my whole life. People saying my name incorrectly. Do you mean Richard? No, I don't fucking mean Richard. I'm not confused here. But then on top of that, people just being like, Ricard, how's your husband? How is that? Like, how's his body after the pregnancy? People lead with knowing my story. I haven't had to actually explain where my kids came from in months. And that is such a small thing, but has been the coolest, most amazing gift from Survivor I could ever receive. And I never thought it would be that, but I actually get to just be normal for a second.
and like seen, like your family, like it's like just like that's such a cool I never even thought of, like, you think about putting yourself out there and having people know you, and it definitely feels cool but very scary, right? And that's so cool to have that as an element where it's like, yeah, it's also cool for people to know about you, you know?
Yes. And, you know, like, I mean, even the burliest, straightest man, I remember I was flying to Dallas and this big guy came over. He's like, you're that guy from Survivor. And I was like, oh God, here we go. And he's like, how's your husband? You make it back in time? I'm like, oh my God, girl, yes. Yeah, you know about my husband and you're calling him my husband. This is great. This is extra bonus. It was so cool. And it's actually made me realize how accepting so many more people are than I realized. I've definitely had tunnel vision of scary people. And now I'm like, actually, let me get to know every single human being here and get to evaluate and not feel instantly threatened. And that's a really cool little bonus. And, you know, in addition to the selfish element of me just being happy that people know my story, I had somebody reach out to me that when they were explaining to their family, a trans man was explaining to his family that he wanted to give birth, they referenced our story, which then went to like my TikTok where I've documented my kid's birth story and like pregnancy and whatnot. And their family got it because it wasn't so just this story that we're hearing, like, this doesn't make sense, doesn't that, blah, blah, blah. But they actually saw it come to fruition with another family. And look at us.
Yeah.
and how we still identify. It's awesome.
And for people that don't already follow Ricard on the social medias, like it's truly both in like it's beautiful, like how it came to be, but also just like literally the most beautiful family. Like your children are gorgeous. And that is a really, really, really cool story. And like to think, and that's someone who's like at that place in their life now. And to think of like all like the thousands and hundreds of thousands of people that over their lives, like your story will impact, like it's wild. I mean, and especially at this moment in time when there's just like so much rampant anti-trans agenda, like in this country, it can't be overstated, I think, how amazing it was that you and Andy, you know, made your story so public. And I just think it's really, really important.
And it's a happy story. That's the big piece that gives me goosebumps. Like, I don't know. I'm going to reference something. I don't know if I'm allowed to reference other things. Have you watched Heartstopper by chance?
I haven't yet, but everyone says
I'm
to.
obsessed. I'm obsessed with Heartstopper. Joe Locke, you are a joy to the world. You will never hear this, but you are a joy to the world. A story that ends happy for the queer community is what we need. And even though, like, yeah, I didn't win, I feel like I ended on a good note. I have a 100%. Good, happy story, and I made it home in time for the birth of my son, and I have this like happy long-term marriage that's going strong. Like, I'm a happy story, and that's really, really cool.
I love that. I love that. Like that, and you know, like that's my whole thing. That's my like yay tattoo. Like it's just like, yeah, like you spend so much of your life just like worrying about, is it going to be okay? Like, is it going to be okay? Am I going to survive? You know? And then it like, you can get to a place where it's like the best, most happiest thing. And like, you're such an example of that. And that makes me very happy.
So are you two. Like, you two are solid. Like, oh my gosh.
It was so fun. We got to have the Andy, Ricard, Carmel, Evvie meeting in Chicago. I mean, she's, you know, we got good ones, you know?
Carmel, amazing. Amazing. I will never forget one of the first things that I ever heard you say at Merge was Carmel saying to you, don't lose that butt or don't lose your ass playing. And I was just like, yes, body positivity and love it.
Exactly. The asses are important.
Asses are important.
I love that. And it really like, I wish it was something that got to be shown more on the show. Obviously, like, you know, there's only so much time, but I feel like one of my favorite moments of like my experience on the show was when you and I like shared our coming out stories to each other. I feel like I really thought it was gonna be on the show because I like remember so vividly the camera people like getting all the angles, and I was like, yes, this is gonna be so impactful. And I honestly feel like maybe we got a version of it a little bit with Romeo and High on this past season, but I feel like what you were also mentioning for Jeannie, like it's cool that because we have very different stories, right? Like I remember vividly you saying something about like your first kiss was with like a boy in maybe like second grade or something like that. Is that
yes,
am I remembering?
Little Josh. Josh, if you're out there, you and your little boots, you're tucked in. It was like kindergarten. We were tiny. It was during nap time. And I always wanted to mimic my mother. I would put a shirt on my head. I wanted the long hair. I wanted her lipstick, everything. She wouldn't let me have lipstick, but she gave me chapstick for Christmas. And I would slather that shit on, lip smackers. And this little boy, Josh, handsome devil. We laid next to each other during nap time. And he said, can I use your chapstick? And I said, no. My mom said, no one can use my chapstick. But then I thought about my mom putting on her lipstick and kissing my dad goodbye for the day and lipstick being on him. And so I was like, oh, well, you know what? I have an idea. Lip smackers, kiss. They called our parents. We were moved away from each other. I never got to speak to Josh again. It was the end of, it was a massive like issue that moment.
Wow.
But that was my first kiss.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
little Josh in kindergarten.
Great move. I feel like that's just an excellent move in general. Like this is the only way that this chapstick can be transferred. But was that traumatic? I mean, that sounds like really intense.
Yeah, it was. I remember I immediately got a girlfriend afterwards, and I didn't even know what girlfriends were. I didn't even know what any of this meant.
Right.
But I know that there was a lot of pressure afterwards, and like, don't you like a girl in school? Don't you like blah blah blah?
Right.
Don't you like? And so I remember this little girl, Sarah Biscardi. I was obsessed with her, and she
Sarah,
actually,
if you're out there,
she is out there. We found each other
oh,
on
really?
social media like 10 years ago. She has kids
Amazing.
now. Love ya. She has a little gorilla that I gave her when I moved away, because we
Aw.
moved away, and she still has it to this day. Either baby Ricard or gorilla Ricard, whatever.
That's really
And I found a
sweet.
girlfriend right afterwards
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there was so much pressure. Like,
Mhm.
how dare I kiss this little boy? I must like girls.
Right.
And
Right.
I mean, that's just kind of like how queer lives are at the beginning, unless you happen to be lucky to have an accepting family at that time, you know, 30 years ago.
Right.
But that just
Right.
wasn't reality. And
Right.
until I graduated high school, even after I came out, which I was outed by accident, I did not actually come out. Even after I came out, I still envisioned myself having a wife and kids because it still seemed unfathomable me actually following through with this life that I wanted. So it really wasn't even a thought in my head. I was like, oh, I'm still just getting this out of my system, and then I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do.
I resonate with that so much, because I feel like because I didn't really, like, even to myself, like, realize it until, like, let myself realize it really until I was like in my early 20s, like, honestly. And like, I feel like so much of it was like, I kind of knew, but it was like, I'm fine dating men, and like, this will be so much easier. You know what I mean? Like, what I can't even picture what that life looks like, you know? And it's definitely scary, and it's definitely hard. So like, this is fine. I can just be fine, you know? And like, this thing that we're talking about of like, okay, but what if we go from fine to like ecstatic joy? And like, you know, like, and it might not be a simple road to get there. And I'm like, I'm not trying to say that it's like instantly the best thing ever for everyone, but like, you give yourself just so much more like potential to be happy. And like, I think the biggest roadblock for a lot of people in terms of that, especially like self-realization or like allowing yourself to be yourself, I'm saying self a lot, is not having those role models. Right. And I just think like, I can't emphasize enough, like, your family, I just like really feel like, and you as a person, like you were saying, being like a badass Survivor player, like physically, strategically, socially, like, you know, like, that's going to be huge for just so many people. Like, it's amazing.
And it's wild to me to think of seeing somebody who could be your role model when you're in your 20s, like when you're an adult, but there's never too late of a moment to realize like, oh, this person is the representation I never knew of. My husband, he had never heard of trans people. He had never met a trans person that he knows of until he was in his 20s. Wow. And he was calling himself a little boy as a little tiny kid. He knew, but he didn't know. He never had he had never had the verbiage. He didn't understand. And then his dad passed away in a car accident about a year before he transitioned and realized who he was. And that's this big thing of like, what had his life have been like? What could it have been if he had seen a trans person or learned what trans meant before? Because now he has to live with this element of, my dad never met Andy ever. And there's no changing that.
Yeah.
And that's so sad to me. It's so fucking sad to me. Yeah. But that's like, the more people are, and I know there's so many folks out there that are gonna misconstrue it because they're just not into the queer community and whatever, and be like, see, you're just turning kids. It's not turning. It's just learning. And see, like, I could live in a hole and never know what chocolate is and never realize I like chocolate. And then I see chocolate and I'm like, oh, I could have liked that my whole life. It's not somebody forced the chocolate. I know this is such a silly analogy, but
no, it's so
silly accurate to say we're turning people.
Yes.
You're watching the same show, Susie. Are you gay now because of Jeannie? No.
Totally. I really remember, like, it's an Ellen quote, which I know Ellen, you know, her moment came and passed, but you know, of just like,
it was a big moment and it was really important in my life.
And for me too, honestly. And like, that's why, you know, it's a complicated figure. It's like,
Yeah.
really a lot of good in there also. But anyway, that's not the focus. But I just remember her saying something of like, you know, for her, I grew up around all straight people. Like, why didn't it turn me straight? You know? And it's just like you said, just like, there are so many people that just don't have this example, don't know this exists, don't know this as a possibility. And like, yeah, the more, I think that's why it's really awesome to have more of us on TV and like to just have these examples and like different types of examples. Like, I think I was thinking, you know, the whole Ricard, I was looking at your Twitter in practice in prep for this. Ricard, drop the 4, keep the 1, like drop the H. I'm butchering it, but
yeah.
yeah, something like that. And I was thinking, you know, you had like Richard Hatch, you know, the first winner of the show was a gay man. And like, just to think like, you know, you're 1 letter off in name and you were almost there at the end, but you're such a, you know, completely different person from him. And like, it's just really cool to think, you know, not that Survivor has been perfect, not that there's always been good representation, but like the number of us is really growing, and the number of different types of people that people can see on TV really has grown a lot, you know?
Yeah. And I have a direct like connection to Richard Hatch being the first winner of the show and me feeling for the first time I would be accepted in my family. My kind of family, and I'm not trying to diss on my mom, but at the time I would diss on her because she was wild, and she was the person, you know, she would flip the channel and change it if it was Will and Grace and be like, that's gross. If Queer Eye, whatever, Queer Eye, oh, why are they acting like that? Whatever. But Survivor, when that came out, that was the one show there was a gay person that she was actually rooting for. And I know I've told this story on a few podcasts, but it's like, it's a huge moment in my life, and it's why I love Survivor. She was rooting for him. She wasn't just putting up with him on her screen. She loved Richard. She wanted him to win. She wanted him to thrive. He wins. She's happy. And I realized for the first time that she really has the ability to root for a gay person. And I was like, holy damn. Like, she really could root for me at some point in my life. She could be okay with me. Because look, she's okay with this dude, this hairy, naked man. She loves him.
Yeah.
And like, that was huge for me. And that was when I got addicted to Survivor. Like, she's okay. And I wanted her to watch. She continued watching for a few seasons, but she, you know, like most people, they changed what they enjoy watching on TV. But I wanted her to watch every season because I wanted her to be constantly seeing this representation and not just forgetting, and not it being a one-off with Richard, just like with Ellen. She always referenced like, yo, I'm not comfortable with this, but I like Ellen.
Right.
But I'm not comfortable with it. Like, that was her. I can't be homophobic. I have a gay friend.
Right. And the gay friend is Ellen. Yeah.
It was Ellen. Oh, Mom, please don't listen to this. Oh, God. I don't mean anything bad. And that's also a beautiful part of this. She walked me down the aisle in my wedding. She was there for the birth of my daughter. Like, she is the accepting, loving parent. Didn't matter her generation. She got there. So did Andy's mom. We have great, great families. And I can't overstate that enough, that there's always the possibility for change. There's always the potential. It doesn't matter how bleak it is. It doesn't matter if you're from the most intense Catholic religious background, went to Catholic elementary school like me. It doesn't matter. There is the possibility. And I just happen to be one of those stories. So.
No, I first of all, it's a beautiful story and makes me very, it's just to think of how far people can come in their life, you know? And like, I think, as you were saying that, I was thinking, like, I feel like we focus a lot, especially like on, you know, in the Twitter Survivor world of like, that there's like some just like really intense haters. And I know that the really intense haters have found you from time to time. And, but there are so many people that are just in the, like, actually are just like people that have not really engaged with LGBTQIA people in their life, or like have never, you know, in an active way. And like, it's not their thing, but like, they don't super actively hate it. And then seeing people on TV that they connect with in a game that's about like survival and challenges and social strategy and like, you know, voting people out, like, they can be like, oh, I like that person. And it actually can have like a really big impact on how they perceive the world. And it's like, you know, I don't want to be like high on our own supply, but like it really does. I think like it is really impactful, and that this show isn't about being gay. You know what I mean? At all. It's not about that, but we're people and we go out there and like, it's going to be about that a little because we're people who are there. And I just think that kind of like passive influence is like really important as well, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, I think what I'm starting to realize, or what I've realized over the last year, is the fans want a certain narrative at some point. And they want you to, whatever you represent. So me being a queer person, they want me to represent that for the rest of my life almost. And they, I'm like trying to figure out how to say this properly. There are a lot of friendships within the Survivor world. And it's wild if like some fans hate one person for whatever the reason may be. They are all in on hating that person. And then they'll try and be like, well, you're gay, so how could you like that person? Blah, blah, blah. That's what Survivor is. I did not come on Survivor to play against 17 other queers and just be the reigning queen of Survivor. I came on to play with the Brads and the Heathers and the Dannys and the Shans. That's what's going to make me feel like I succeeded. The fact that I could be and create relationships with people that are nothing like me. That's what Survivor is. The social experiment. And through that, we create these friendships and these ties of this shared experience that's really special. Obviously, there are going to be a lot of things that are like, oh, you shouldn't do that, or I do not subscribe to that mentality or that thinking.
Of course.
But we created real bonds out there. And the more we spend time with one another and the more that we educate each other, the more progress is going to be made. There's not going to be any progress made if I just stop talking to everybody that you don't like for whatever reason. Like, we need to continue fostering these relationships and bonds and continue changing the world for the better. I'm not just going to end the show and be like, bye, half the cast. Deuces.
Right.
Then we've accomplished nothing. Then to me, I know everybody has very different opinions, and I'm respectful of those. But if you're going to try and force me to be different, it's just not going to work, because I want to think that there's good in everyone and that there's the potential for change. I really believe there is.
And it's a really, it's a really interesting thing when you meet people in this situation of Survivor where like, so obviously it's not that social issues are not existent. Of course they are. And of course, like with different identities, of course they're there, but just like, you're not talking about the same stuff that you're normally talking about, you know? And it's just like, you are able to just, that is the cool thing. Like you said, you connect with people that you never would. Just like people listening, like obviously whether you love someone or hate them, they're a much bigger multi-dimensional person than you can possibly imagine, you know, with 45 minutes for however many episodes, you know? Yeah. So no, that's very, very real.
And, you know, on the flip side, there are also going to be relationships that can never form because of the biases we have going into it.
That's the thing. Like, and people can talk about, oh, I don't want us to be talking about, you know, race or identity. And it's like, Survivor is a microcosm of the real world. And as you say, people bring those biases in. I wanted to, for everyone out there, Ricard has to go bake a birthday cake for his son after this. So we're trying to keep her tight over here. But I just wanted to share a moment that I truly will never forget. So, you know, you said, as you said, it was at your last tribal council that you shared that Andy was pregnant. And I definitely had I feel like there were times throughout the game where, like, there was one time you were crying a little, just like a little. And it was like, something is going on with him that I don't know. And I feel like it was, you were thinking about that. And you got voted out and you came to Ponderosa, you know, took a shower, I think. And you came back with pictures of your family. And it was just a really special, like, moment of like, okay, like there was a game and now we're out of the game. And now like we get to hear like your real life and see your real family and these like beautiful pictures of your children, or at the time child, and husband.
Yeah.
And, I don't have a question there. That was a very special moment for me.
I am literally crying. Well, what's funny is when I went into the game, Andy had wrapped up a People magazine for me, which I was like, I don't read magazines. What is this weird ass gift they were giving? He's like, open it when you get there. When I get to LA, because when I got to LA, we were there for 3 days before he flew to Fiji. And he's like, it's just a little something for the flight to Fiji. It's no big deal. And I was like, okay. So I opened it before we left, right after they took our phones. I wish I'd opened it before so I could call him. And when I flipped through it, every page had a different picture from like us or the kids or his baby bump or something. Like he had printed out a shit ton of pictures and put them in a magazine, but he hid them in a magazine in case production took them.
Genius.
And I was like, oh. And so I was like one of the very few people that actually had pictures of their family to show off. And when I left, it didn't have as big an impact on me. I just thought it was really sweet when I left for the game. But when I was voted out and I tried to eat, I couldn't eat. I went to go shower and then come back afterwards. When I saw those pictures, I just like, it meant more than anything in the world to me, especially because I had the family visit. I'm using air quotes if you're just listening.
Right.
I had won the
by the way, did they have disembodied voices for you all, or like season 42? They did.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but it was a little different. Season 42, they were already sitting and eating, and then they started hearing their family's voices. With ours, we were in a tent before, waiting for it to get dark. And when we walked out, we were walking towards whatever they call that little shack. Their Serenity House. I don't know what they call it.
The retreat. Yeah.
The retreat thing. And as we're walking up, you could hear a voice saying, Baba, Baba. And an important piece of the story is when I left for Survivor, my daughter couldn't speak yet. I had never heard her speak.
Oh my God.
And so when I walked in, and I had told Shan, because Shan and I, we were best friends. We knew everything about each other. And so I had told her when Ari starts to talk, I want to be Baba. And she was like, you're Baba. You're Baba. And I was like, what? And I couldn't really hear it that well.
Oh my God.
But my first time hearing my daughter speak ever was walking into that reward. And then I got to see her on the screen. And I freaking lost it. And the fact that they cut it out of the show really hurt my heart. It really, really was hard. And I was like, well, this makes sense. I'm not the winner. People already have a really big tie with Shan, and she was about to leave that episode. They have a really big tie with me. This is going to put too much emotional connection to a person that's the non-winner. And so it made sense. But then I saw 42, and the winner also was not at that reward. And I was like, what the shit is this? What?
Yeah.
I was so upset. But no, that was my first time ever hearing her speak.
That's wild.
And so like, but with that reward, the video, not only, but it was special, but you could see Andy's head, but he had cropped out his body so that nobody would know he's pregnant. He like filmed it a very specific way. And so like, I didn't have a visual thing of like, did he have the baby? Is the baby still there? But because we had lost our second baby, and that was also hard. I was so scared we were going to lose another. But actually getting to see these tangible pictures, and especially one where you could see his big old belly. Yeah. And I was like, the baby's fine. I've seen the belly. Like it was just a more special moment than that reward. Because I got to really see my family, not a cropped, hidden version. It was really cool.
Right.
So I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you.
Of course. Oh, wow. That is so mind blowing that the first time you heard her say Baba was at that reward. That's wild.
On Survivor, they watch me. Yeah.
That's wow.
Damn, if I had been the winner, this would have been an epic story. The amount of stuff they cut out, I was like, I swear I'm a nice person. Episodes 1 through 4, I am just the sassiest little biatch. Like, I hate JD. Get JD out of here. Like, They showed no kind side to me.
You had a good arc. You had the arc.
It was fun. It was fun.
Yeah,
It was fun
yeah.
to watch. And
Yeah.
Andy was like, "No, that's definitely you. It's just like one part, but no, that's accurate." Like,
Yeah.
thanks.
Thanks, love. I want to respect your time, so I just have one like final question. Like, this is going to be the last episode of The Pride Has Spoken, and so I was wondering if you had any like hopes or dreams for like the future of LGBTQIA, either representation on Survivor or like Survivor fandom or anything like that.
Honestly, I just want it to be at a point where everyone is just a contender at the very beginning, and we form relationships and bonds with the castaway based on their gameplay and based on their personality. And the amount of times, although flattering, that I mean, and I fly on airplanes, I see hundreds of people every day I'm at work. And so I have a shit ton of people that recognize me and a shit ton of people that approach me. And so when they do, although it's flattering to hear like, "Oh, you know, I didn't like you at first, but I really came around. You won me over." Like, that's really great. But it's wild that 90% of you hated me at first. Based on what? Like, I was barely in the first few episodes. You saw like a funny little quip from me, and then that was pretty much it. So there's an issue with our biases here that I was despised so much, and I had to win more challenges than anyone. I had to get to the finale. I had to do all of this stuff for you to respect me in any capacity. I love it. I'm proud of myself that I was able to do it. But not every queer person is going to be able to have this long-standing story arc for you to end up being okay with them. You should be okay with all of us from the beginning. And if we do something that you hate, then yeah, I get it. Like, you're disappointed in that player, but I want us to just be so inundated. I want everyone to just be like so represented that we're just like, "Oh, Ricard's playing the season," not, "Oh, the gay guy," and then put my name on it when I've done well. I want that for everyone. I really, really do. And I guess we'll see how it goes. It's looking good so far. I mean, I already with 42, I know we filmed back to back, so it's not based off of our season, them watching. But I love the gay on gay fighting. I love that they treated this season like everyone was just a person instead of us super focusing on our identities, which are important, very important. But it was really cool to see. That's what future seasons should be like.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Just game. Hard game.
I love it. I love it. Amen to that. Amen to that. What a good hope. And is there anything else that you want to, anything you want to like plug or have people follow you or?
Oh, yeah, follow me on at Ricard Foye on Twitter or Instagram. I don't really have much. I do. I'm a part co-host of Drop Your Buffs, which is a phenomenal podcast. I know Rob has a podcast. It's also a phenomenal podcast. But Drop Your Buffs.
You're gonna have. It's the off season. Like, take time. Listen to all the podcasts. Like,
listen to all of them. Evan Ross Katz, Sean Ross, like my babies. Yeah. And just keep watching Survivor. I'm so excited for the future of Survivor, and I hope that whoever does eventually come back for a returning season, I hope they are able to thrive. I hope they are loved in this new era and respected. And yeah, just good luck to everybody.
I love that so much. And I'm really so grateful we had this conversation. And thank you so much for being part of it. Like, I really feel like it's special that we got to do this. So I appreciate it so much. And all you people out there, if you are going to send Ricard a message, just skip to the part where you love him at the end. You don't have to tell him.
I hated your face. You were so stupid and ugly, but you really won me over.
Yeah. And you can't, I mean, Ricard is gorgeous. So, like, that's just ridiculous. So
thank you. I mean, and
objectively true.
Order your cameos. I love doing a cameo. I do love doing a cameo.
Yes. Get at Ricard.
One funny story before
please. It's you're the one with the time crunch.
I know it. So I am not Todrick Hall where I do the same cameo for everybody, but I have the same like greeting, I'm like, "Hi, this is Ricard from season 41 of Survivor." I just always say it the same way. Now, when I call my work, so I had to find out about a hotel thing. I always talk the same also, where I'm like, hi, this is Ricard, employee number, and I say my number. I'm not going to say it on this podcast. I had filmed 3 cameos, and then I was getting ready for work, and I was like, oh, they haven't given me my hotel. Let me just call really quick. And so I called my work, and
oh my God,
all I said was, hi, this is Ricard from season 41 of Survivor. And the crew scheduler was like, what the fuck? What? It was one of the most embarrassing moments ever.
Oh my God.
That's my cameo, sorry. And I have another one where I was filming a Mother's Day one. And I realized, I was like, yeah, Mother's Day. What was I doing last Mother's Day? I was getting voted out of Survivor last Mother's Day. And I realized it in the middle of filming this.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I had a moment and I was like, shit, I have to re-record this. Because I was just like, oh, yeah, that's what happened last Mother's Day. Cool.
I love that. I love that. All right, hit up Ricard on Cameo. Make sure you get the full vocal pitch modulation.
All of it.
Or it wasn't authentic. And this was so great. Thank you for being a part of this, Ricard. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Mwah.
Mwah. Love you.
Mwah.
What is up? This is Todd Herzog from Survivor China. I just want to give a big shout out to all of my LGBTQIA plus family members. Happy Pride. This is such a big month for us. It's a month where we get to go and just be like, look at who I am. I am so happy with who I am. And I love you for being who you are, because I personally love you for who you are. I'm super stoked that Evvie reached out and asked me to record this with The Pride Has Spoken and mention a little bit about my time on Survivor. So back in 2007, representation of the gay community wasn't necessarily huge in television, and there really wasn't social media besides MySpace. But so I was a little scared. But that only lasted for about 5 minutes, because I told myself, I like who I am. I'm proud of who I am, and I'm going to go out there. I'm going to be who I am to the best of my abilities. And you know what? I did it. I'm so proud of how it was, and people liked who I was for me. And that's all that matters to me. To anybody out there who may feel alone or sad or confused or struggling, you can always reach me on social media. I'm very accessible, and I want you to know that you're not alone and you are loved. It is so important that you know that you're loved. So yes, thank you all. Much love and happy Pride.
The following is a clip from Jackson from season 42.
What did playing Survivor mean to me as someone who identifies as LGBTQIA+. Actually, it meant a lot to me to play. It let me know I didn't have any limitations, that my story was accepted just like anybody else's was. And I was out there to represent, and it was an awesome experience. How was my experience playing Survivor affected by being LGBTQIA+. My God, I think they were seeking out my story, to be honest with you. I had great acceptance by my tribe, by everybody on the cast. I think it was a learning experience for some of them. They had never, as they put it, they never met anyone like me, even though they probably had, they just didn't know it. I think it was just a great representation. Anything I'd like to say to the fans listening to the podcast? Man, your support has been unmatched. I have never felt more love, more acceptance, more caring about my story. To be even more, I've even had families reach out and say they love the fact that they were now able to speak to their kids. So yeah, it means absolutely everything. There's nothing I would change about the experience. I hope this gives you everything that you need, and thank you all for being fans and listening.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Elaine Stott here from season 39 of Survivor. Real quick, I just wanted to say happy Pride, and thanks for all the love and support that I've gotten over the last few years and while I was out on the island. I really do appreciate it. It was an honor to actually be able to go out and play and represent the community, because representation does matter, and I really try to do it in a positive light. So thank you for all the love and support once again. And to quote the great Joe Dirt, y'all just keep on keeping on me, and love is love.
The following is a clip from Romeo from season 42.
Playing the game of Survivor as someone who identifies as part of the LGBTQIA plus community meant that I was not only playing the game as myself, as Romeo, but I was playing the game for an entire community. And it was important for me to know while I was playing out there that when someone who is part of the community and would identify themselves with me would turn on the television every week and see someone that they could relate to and feel seen and feel represented. If there's something I would like to say to fans and members of the LGBTQI plus community who are listening to this podcast is that it does get better. Anyone who loves you will love you for you regardless. My experience in Survivor was definitely affected by being a member of the LGBTQIA plus community. When you're playing this hard game, it has a funny way of bringing up past issues. And one of my past issues was living half of my life up to now as a closeted gay man. So being able to share with my tribe mates the fact that I lived my life not being myself for so long because I was afraid of what people would think of me and if they wouldn't love or accept me anymore was definitely really freeing for me. It allowed me to come back home and be able to finally live a more free and authentic life. And to me, that was worth so much more than winning $1 million.
And here's Ron Clark from Survivor Edge of Extinction.
So since season 1, episode 1 of Survivor, I have been a diehard fan. I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to apply. I want to be on this show. I have to do it. But I was hesitant because I didn't want my sexuality and being gay to be portrayed in a way that I wouldn't be happy with. I was out to my friends and family and, of course, Lloyd, but not to like the greater world. And I just didn't know how that would be handled on television. I didn't want to be the token gay character on a show. And I just was, I got all up in my head about it. And so I wasn't sure I wanted to do it. But I had this great desire to be a castaway, to be part of the game, to experience it. And so my whole life, I just wanted to do it. And so finally I was like, you know what? I'm comfortable with myself. I'm comfortable with, how I'm perceived by the world, the community, and I'm going for it. And so I applied and got on the show. And when I first got there day one, I was talking to Aurora and I realized that she was part of the community as well. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're family. And it was just so exciting. And I was like, wow, they didn't even split us up. They put us on the same tribe too. And then I noticed that when I went to my confessionals, nobody asked me questions about my sexuality or being gay. It just wasn't even a thing. It was kind of an afterthought. And actually, if you watched the Edge of Extinction season, my sexuality isn't even mentioned until Lloyd, my husband, shows up for the loved one visit. And it's just kind of like really understated. Oh, yeah, this is Lloyd, Ron's husband. And no big fanfare, no big deal is made about it. And so I really appreciated that. And it made me feel really comfortable. And so I'm just really proud of how Survivor has handled situations like that in the LGBTQIA community, how it's been treated on the show. And I'm just really proud of that. And to anyone who's listening to this and you're not out or you're comfortable with what the community is going to think of you or the world or your family, I heard something one time. Someone said, when you're 20, you're very concerned with what people think about you. When you're 40, you don't care what people think about you. When you're 60, you realize nobody was thinking about you anyway. Like, the older you get, you start to realize, because I've realized, oh, nobody's even really thinking about you. Nobody really cares. Nobody cares about you or is thinking about you as much as you think they are. And so live your own truth. Be true to you. And when you are and when you're comfortable with it and when you just kind of put it all out there and then there it is and you can accept it or not accept it, the people who love you and care about you are going to remain, and those who aren't, you might not have wanted them to be in your circle anyway. And then also by coming out, you give so much, you educate people and you help make it easier for other people. And so live your truth, speak who you are, and be confident in that. Thank you for letting me share my thoughts. The pride has spoken.
Good morning, LGBT Survivor community. This is Scout from Survivor Vanuatu. I was 59 years old when I was in the show, and at that time I had never outed myself publicly. Of course, my personal friends and family knew that I was in a relationship with a woman, but it wasn't something that I broadcast because at that point in time it just wasn't done that much. I grew up in an era where staying in the closet was a wise thing to do. I'm thrilled that that is no longer true. I knew going into Survivor that I would probably be outed, and I thought it through before I applied. Actually, Jeff Prost outed me at the final tribal, which was shocking at the time, and it only cost me one speaking gig to a high school football team. Other than that, I've continued to get work, and people continue to enjoy my presence, so not a big deal. I love that Survivor has become so diverse over the years. I think it's a public forum for acceptance because so many young people and families watch the show. And of course, the LGBTQ community that has been on the show have been mostly very much loved by the public. So get your applications in, kids. Get out there and play the game. Who you sleep with is not nearly as important as what you do with your heart. Love you all. Scout out.
Come on in, gays. That's right. It's Brett LaBelle from Survivor Season 33, Millennials versus Gen X. I'm so proud to be a member of the Gay Survivor alumni. I'm also proud to be a part of an amazing coming out scene alongside my castmate and friend, Zeke Smith. A scene that has seemed to touch so many people from around the globe. I still get DMs and messages all the time about it, telling me how much they enjoyed it. I'm so glad Zeke and I will have that until the end of time. Survivor's been celebrating gay contestants since the beginning when Richard Hatch won Survivor Borneo. I remember how cool it was for me to watch a gay man break all the barriers and win the first ever title of Sole Survivor. Since then, I have watched several more gay contestants play, and some even win, like Mike Larson, Amy Cusack, Todd Herzog, Charlie Herschel, John Carroll, Kelly Remington, Josh Canfield, and Ty, to name a few. I look forward to watching many more in the future. Which brings me to this. Fans listening to this right now. I watched from Season 1 to Season 32 before I was cast on Survivor. There is still time. Go apply today. Put everything down. Put the phone down. Stop listening to this podcast and go apply to the show right now. I love you all. Evvie, thanks for having me. LaBelle out.
Hey everybody, this is Jeannie Robin Chen, Survivor 41 contestant, saying Survivor was the adventure of my life, and I proudly played as my true and authentic self. I am part of the LGBTQ plus community. I'm a part of the API community, and I am completely and genuinely touched that CBS and our Survivor community has made it such an open space and welcoming space for me to be me. And if you are interested in becoming a contestant, I would encourage you to go for it because our stories matter and our stories should be told. And I know I'm using that word again, normal, but our stories are normal and it can be normalized, and it has been. So please go for it. And I can't wait to see more of our community play this crazy, amazing game. Thank you.
Hey everyone, this is John Carroll from Survivor Marquesas. I want to wish everybody a happy Pride Month. I cannot believe it's been 20 years since I played. I'm one of the Survivor OG gays, and I could not be more proud to be amongst this wide and ever-growing community of Survivor players that represent all facets of the LGBTQIA plus community. We still have lots of work to do. There are a lot of forces against our community, And it's ever important for us to be out and proud and present. And Survivor has done a really great job of showing the diversity within our community, shown some of the really great parts of it, and it's also shown some of the ugly parts. And that's just life, and that's just the way that it is. For those LGBTQIA plus Survivor fans and wannabe survivors, apply and represent, and know that you have as equal chance to win as anybody else, and representation matters. And so I'm very grateful to have done my part, and hopefully one day I might show up again on that island, quite a bit older, hopefully a little bit wiser, but always ready to represent our community.
Hello, hello. What is good, everyone? This is Vince Mua here to chat a bit about my experience as a queer person of color on Survivor. For me, my identity as a gay person has always been intimately tied with my identity as a first-generation American, son of Hmong refugees from a low-income upbringing, and also from the 209, y'all. And I know that this be a lot to think about, but I cannot just be one without all of these other aspects. So for me, playing Survivor was an opportunity to showcase the diverse communities that really shaped my understandings of self-injustice. And it was also a rare, like a super duper rare chance to highlight and fight for BIPOC LGBTQIA plus stories to be showcased and valued. I had an amazing experience and have never regretted my decision because, y'all, when else have you ever seen a melanated, thick, and outspoken Hmong American queer person on American media? Never. I was the first. And so while that was amazing, I felt a lot of pressure to play a game that would not negatively impact the images of queer people or throw us back into antiquated tropes, which did not allow me to, I guess, at times be the realest or most authentic version of myself, because I was super unsure of how to navigate those systems. And in game, I was seen kind of in the middle because I was not man enough to be in the men's circle, but then on the other side, I wasn't seen as trustworthy by the women because I wasn't quote unquote one of the girls. And so for me, this resulted in having to play a game where I couldn't think about thriving as a baddie. And I knew I was a baddie. I knew I could potentially win. But I was literally, y'all, fighting just to exist. And I think that's a reflection of what happens in a lot of facets of our lives as queer people, and especially as queer people of color who are often the only or one of the few in spaces or rooms. And I know I'll be talking way too much already. So to LGBTQIA plus Survivor fans out there, I might just leave y'all with a small snippet of what I tell queer mentees. Hmong people believe that every single person is given the life story as their ticket to the mortal world. In being so, you are not a mistake, you are not an aberration, you are not a disappointment, you are exactly, let me say this again, you are exactly as you are meant to be. You are powerful, you are resilient, you are beautiful, you are fierce, you are the brilliance that brings color and life into the essence of what being alive is. And in being so, shine on and continue to fight the good fights, y'all. Remember that if little old Vince turned Mission Impossible into hashtag Mission Vince Possible, y'all can do that too. So go and be your truest selves, y'all.
Hey everybody, Missy Bird here from season 39. I just wanted to wish you the most beautiful, happy Pride. Thank you to our allies. Thank you to our friends. Thank you to anyone who gives us a safe space. I hope that we all have a beautiful Pride. Love is love, and I love you all. Cheers, queers.
Hey y'all, this is Hyde from Survivor 42, and my gay agenda for playing the game, besides winning, was showing the world that our community is not a monolith. I wanted to go out there on the island and play a good game, but also play a fun game, a silly game, and a confident game, all rolled up into one, highlighting all of the favorite parts of my and my community's personalities. And I truly believe that I did that within the first 5 minutes with my game-changing move of smearing fake blood all over myself and talking about my skincare routine. It was giving camp. But seriously, it was such a joy to be given the chance to represent for queer folk on Survivor 42. We're such a large and outspoken part of this fandom, and I'm so grateful producers are starting to cast more diverse queer voices. I mean, look at the spread across 41 and 42. Dr. Evvie, Ricard, Jeannie Machini, Romeo, Chanel, Lydia, Jackson, myself. There's no two that are just alike. Our distinct personalities bring their own unique voices, strategies, and love for the game, and it makes the show so much more fun to watch for queer people. I love where the show is going. I love seeing the queer fans engage and having such a blast watching the episodes. The perfect cherry on top is watching a queer person bring home the title of Sole Survivor within the next few seasons, and I truly believe that that will happen. If you're a queer fan listening to this podcast and you get cast on the show, I want you to bring home the title, baby.
Hey all, this is Josh from Survivor San Juan del Sur, and I have to say that one of the greatest things that came from playing Survivor was just being able to read all of the messages that I got from so many fans in our community. To be able to have been an out gay man in 2014 on the show, where Survivor actually aired multiple conversations about being out, being gay. Um, that was a big deal, and I reading messages saying that you all appreciated just the representation on screen meant so much, and I still get messages to this day saying that it's helped them with their family as they're watching the show. Not only my story, but a lot of our different queer stories from queer Survivor players, and that's huge and something that I keep with me and know that that was probably one of the real reasons why I was on the show. And I'm glad that it had the impact that it did have. And I'm just so thankful for all of you fans and keeping the love of the game going. And I'm right there with you, watching every episode.
Hey, what's up, Evvie? Rob is a podcast community. This is Reed Kelly here, and I am super stoked to be with y'all on the Pride Has Spoken podcast series. Thanks for having me. Happy Pride, y'all. Getting cast on Survivor was an epic moment in my life. It always will be, not just as a member of the LGBTQIA plus community, but as a member of the super fandom of Survivor, who has been there since day one, episode 1, season 1, and has just loved the evolution of the show and loved the evolution of the gameplay. So when I got cast, I didn't want to just go out there as, hey, I'm representing the gays and I'm the gay guy. I really wanted to go in there and try and represent super fans and people who really love the gameplay and try to be a strategic competitor, a physical competitor, and a social competitor. So that was really my objective going into the game, is that I wanted to test my limits and go deep into the game and really get a chance to play and see how I did, which I'm super, super grateful for. Being gay and being cast on my season of Survivor was really interesting because we've all been around long enough now to know that if you're going to be on a reality show, they are going to try and cast for conflict in some way, usually by bringing people together from widely varying walks of life. And on our season, that was especially true. You had someone on the cast who was previously very vocal and outwardly against the LGBTQIA plus community. And you also had people on our season that had little to no experience with gay people in their daily lives. And I think it, in a lot of ways, proves what a social experiment Survivor really is, because I'm not sure if production got the results that maybe they thought they were going to get on paper by bringing us all together in the end. Because ultimately, a lot of these people who I think maybe on paper seemed like they wouldn't get along or wouldn't necessarily align or work together became some of my personal friends and closest allies out there. You had people like Keith and Wes and Alec who, at first glance, I wouldn't have anticipated going into the game being like, yo, these are going to be the people that I bond with. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's a check for my own prejudging of people, which was really cool because I had to kind of let go of anything being like, all right, we're all in this together, find common ground. And that's really what we did. I mean, I didn't have really any interaction with John Rocker. That was really all Josh. And I mean, they were like two peas in a pod over there. So I think in a lot of ways, all of this was entirely unexpected, but we would sit around the campfire and just randomly out of the blue, like, Wes or Keith or Alec would just say, man, I just can't believe that, I now have a friend that's a gay guy. I just never expected that. And it's so cool. We have so much in common. And like, I'm happy to call you my friend. So that was something that was really awesome to be a part of, not just personally, but on a broader spectrum where you have people who message you. I get messages on a daily basis from fans saying, listen, the way you played the game and the way you made connections and the people you bonded with has really changed the perception for my family of what it means to be gay. So that's always something that I will cherish and that's really special and is a huge testament to just the reach of Survivor and how it really can have an impact on social change. I want to send a quick shout out of encouragement to members of the queer community that are listening to the podcast today. I know that many times our lives can be challenging, fraught with frustration, isolation, and a lot of times loneliness. But I strongly encourage you to go out there and to find your tribe, your chosen family that you get to do life with. Maybe it's the family you were born into, or maybe it's the family that you choose to have in your life. But that's the great part about it, is that you get to choose who supports you and who you get to support. So go out there, find your tribe, and lean into the resources that are out there for our community. And to the allies that are listening, I just want to say thank you for being there with us, for supporting us, for lifting up our voices and continuing to push with us, because we can't do it alone. And it truly does take a community, not just to survive, but to thrive. So to everyone listening, keep being your authentic selves, keep thriving, keep pushing, and wishing you all a very happy Pride. Thanks so much to the Rob Has a Podcast Network. This is Reed Kelly, and the Pride has spoken.
All right, that was amazing. We heard from Ricard. Evvie, you spoke with Ricard. That we heard from all of these lovely survivors. That was great. I loved it. That was the best. This has been the best. I do want to quickly say up front, these are not, we reached out to a lot of people. We heard back from a lot of people. These are not all inclusive in terms of LGBTQIA survivors. We didn't really touch an international survivor as well. And there's lots of great representation out there. I think my first message is send some love to those folks. We love all of you who are listening in. And I know that does, when we were receiving the clips, people, they're so appreciative of the LGBTQ community, and especially a lot of those folks. And I think that they would love to hear from you folks. But Evvie, this was tremendous. So many interviews. You get to interview. I love the in the intro to Amy's coverage. You're like, yeah, I just did this so I can interview people I've always wanted to.
It's so true. And I just want to say, to every single one of the survivors that I got to interview or sent in a voice clip, I'm really appreciative of them for sharing their stories. Cause I think, you might think, oh, these people were all on TV. This will be no big deal for them to, be talking about specifically their queer experience or their experience as a, LGBTQIA survivor player. And it's not that comfortable for everyone. And even for people that it's comfortable for in some level, you're still delving deeper maybe on those than I think any of us did on the show. So I'm just really, really appreciated for them all for sharing their stories. And I also spoke to some people that didn't feel like it was the right thing to be part of this. And I'm really grateful for them for talking with me as well. And I just, it's just beautiful. And this community that we have, and I felt very, very, very lucky and blessed to be a part of this. And I just really hope that we can keep creating a space where people, whether it's Survivor players, whether it's the amazing podcasters who came on last week and talk about their stories, where people feel like they can share about this, because I really do think it's the kind of thing that the more we talk about it, the easier it is for other people to talk about it. And this is a time for us to really, I think, be visible if we're able to. So I'm very grateful.
That thing you just said about like there's people you spoke to who like we're not ready to chat or for a multitude of reasons. I just want to like give some love to folks if you're listening and you're like, you know, you're queer or trans or gender nonconforming or whatever it is, and you're not ready to come out, you're not ready to say it to anybody. That's totally okay. That's like, we love you. Our hope is that like, you know, doing stuff like this makes it like, you know, easier to like, you know, for people in the future to come out. That's like the society we want to build and create. But if like you're not ready to come out, you'll know when you're ready to come out, right? And then hopefully you will, and it will be lovely, and we'll celebrate with you. But yeah, I just want to acknowledge that not everybody's out, you know.
And I think one of the things that this series, and not only your conversations, Evvie, but also these voicemails illustrated, is just that, you know, the queer community is not a monolith, that it's complicated, it's complex, it's dynamic. There are so many different ways to be queer in general, but even within this world of Survivor, where a lot of us have so many things in common, there are also just so many differences. And I love that. I really feel like over the course of this series, like, yes, it was a Survivor podcast, but also like it wasn't a Survivor podcast. It was just a podcast about people and their lives. And sure, they do also happen to be queer in a multitude of ways, but I think that that's kind of the beauty, and I hope that people could really see themselves in all of the voices that they heard from over the course of this. And you know, if there's one person whose voice or words resonated, or if it's even like one sentence or one comment or something you're taking away as a queer person or even as a non-queer person, I think that that's success for us. And so thank you, especially to like all the queer people who've been part of this and tuning in and kind of hearing themselves in the conversations. But also thanks to everyone else who's like tuned in to learn and listen and hear our voices. Like right now, we appreciate you. And especially in a world where oftentimes people are looking to silence our voices and marginalize us, it's really something that, you know, that we're here together talk. You know, you're literally like hearing my voice right now. It's kind of meta talking about it.
I want to say there's we were filming these interviews, and immediately I remember there's a moment. You know, Bryce is on. He has a Purple Lens podcast. I've heard Bryce talk a lot, but I remember sitting in listening to the Zeke interview and being like, "Holy crap, this is gonna be the gayest thing that's ever been said on Rob as a podcast," like literally. And so I do want to acknowledge that, like, you know, Rob has given us some space to just like create this like incredibly queer thing. I hope like straight people who are listening, like there's part of that hope, like I hope like you loved it and it was like insightful and engaging, you took away from something. What I'm really like, for me, like kind of like super proud of was creating this like super queer space where like you know, the Lyrsa conversation, the Amy being like, yeah, you can call me a homo, you know, like you're like to you, Evvie, not like generally, like not everybody can call Amy a homo.
Yeah. Not everyone has that.
If you're like yes, but you know, we created this like, you know, we talk about like safe spaces, like people make fun of that word safe spaces. It like literally, you know, I feel like there's just like snowflakes, you know, it's just like, no, we just want to like be able to be ourselves without being like persecuted for it. And I feel like there was so much of that energy over the course of this whole series. I want to get like, we had people in the podcaster panel who were like, I'm recording in this room and my parents over there like don't know I'm out, like, you know, and we're just like, this is the space where like you can just be who you are. We're gonna be happy for you, we're proud of you, we love you. And I just like, I love how queer this like series was. It sounds silly to say, but yeah, it's like on Rob as a podcaster just being a bunch of queerdos, you know.
And we queer and we can't take it for granted either. Like the thing is, we've had this space, and I think sometimes people look at where we are as a society, and you know, maybe it's shifting and people are starting to appreciate where we are and like the rights we have and what we're able to be proud that we have and the progress we've made. But, you know, there's still a long way to go. And there's still a lot of people who I think of like, I think of the podcaster panel, I think of the survivors, and I just think of like the little kids at home, the little queer kids who might be in the closet at home, or maybe they're out and they're, you know, their community is struggling with that and pushing back against them. And, you know, I think one thing that's so awesome, Grace, I point to you with this too, is like the fact that we could laugh and like have a good time and be joyful. And this wasn't just a super serious conversation. Like being queer isn't only about our trauma, but about our joy. And I'm just so happy to be happy with you.
But only
too.
until
And, like,
June 30th.
but
And then
only
we have to
until June
shut the
30th.
F up.
For a whole
No.
freaking year.
Queer joy is like a really freaking amazing, beautiful, powerful,
Okay,
special thing all the time, Grace.
I was kidding. I was making a joke.
I know. No,
yeah.
I really feel that. And I just wanted to say that, yeah, I think so when in the process of reaching out to people for this, I realized just like how many LGBTQIA survivor players there actually have been. Like it was way more than I thought. And I just want to say that like something that we talked about in pretty much all of the conversations was, you know, what is coming next, hopefully for representation on Survivor. And I think for me, the biggest takeaway and something that I feel like I especially learned from Zeke is thinking about, we really, really want more representation and more different types of representation. And it's like the environment of the show has to be safe for the people that come on the show. And I think that is both in terms of the production and the filming and also the social media and things like that. And I just really, really hope, because I know it is important to Survivor to have more representation and diversity. It's obviously something that they've been committed to. And I just really, really hope that they do make it a safe place for people, because I think we want that representation, but we want it to be a positive, as positive an experience as starving on an island on national TV can be.
Yeah, fair.
Good caveat. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
and
go ahead, Matt.
Oh gosh, no, there's just so much to say, Grace. And I mean, one thing that I think that's like, we've had the space to have these conversations safely with one another. And Evvie, you've had the conversations you've had, all those Survivor players shared their voices and voicemails. And like, that's something that I want more of these conversations that we have here to be on our TVs. And I want to thank, you know, like everyone who makes Survivor and like the powers that be for even just like being like, yeah, you're doing queer stuff. Like, that's cool. Like, I'm sure there are a lot of people behind the scenes too who might be tuning in and listening to our voices. And I just want to thank you for tuning in and listening and caring and saying, like, we need it, we deserve to have, we as a queer community deserve to have venues where we could have these conversations, and hopefully they do end up on the TV screen in front of millions and millions and millions of people. And so that's the hope. We'll get there. I feel good that we'll get there sooner or later. We'll get there.
This, as Evvie and Matt will test, I'll give a little bit of inside baseball. I'm an extreme overthinker. And so what this podcast ended up being, it seems really simple. It's like, just do some interviews with some queer survivors. Like, it seems really simple, but it went through a lot of iterations of like what it was going to be. And I'm really glad that we ended up in a spot where, like, with you, Evvie, and I just like want to like acknowledge you. I mean, right before the first interview with Bryce, you were like, I've never done an interview before. I've never done it. And I was like, it's a conversation. You'll be great. You'll nail it. Like, both Matt and I have been in the situation of like either interviewing or hosting a pod or whatever. And it's like, yeah, it is nerve wracking. You nailed it from like the moment you were doing it. But I also think like, I'm so glad that it was these conversations between like two queer people who had been like out on the show, not out on the show, but like you were like out on the island, but you've lived through the experience of playing Survivor and being a queer person. And I think it just like, it brought something out of the conversations. I don't think like, if like I was interviewing any of them, they would like, we would have gotten quite the same thing. I thought it was just such a like a unique, cool thing to get to hear. So I'm really appreciative. I'm so glad I reached out to you. So I'm gonna thank myself for reaching out to you, Evvie, to be like, we got to do this, but we got to figure out what this is, because this came from you being on the feedback show during Survivor 42, being like, I want to do something queer, I don't know, and I was like, I have an idea, and it's not the idea that it ended up being, but I'm really proud of like what we put together. I'm really thankful that you said yes and agreed to, you did the combos, and Matt, for you joining along on the ride as well, doing so much work that this was fantastic. So,
and I just have to pile on to the love for, well, first of all, the love for Evvie, because like the thing is, and we've all, we've experienced this at live events even, and I'm sure you've experienced this, Evvie, where people are like nervous to come up or even to reach out, like, I don't know if you'll reply to this DM or whatever it might be. And there's such a separation, not only when it comes to Survivor, but any TV and media, where it's like, that person's on my screen and I am just me sitting at home on my couch and I'm so distant from it. And you've really helped bridge this gap and this divide, even for us as podcasters, where it's like, we're all people and we're all living life and like going through, sometimes a lot of different things, but also a lot of similar things. And I love that you kind of like appreciate that, and like I would love that you've given us the space. You've been a bridge, Evvie. You are the bridge.
Thank you,
and we
thank
appreciate
you,
that.
thank you. But enough about me. Let me love on you two for a sec, and then this is the hallmark of this podcast. But I just want to say thank you to you both so much, because like you two, first of all, bringing all of your expertise as seasoned RHAP podcasters, but also bringing yourselves and your identities into this. Like, I feel like it was really, really special to have 3 different identities, 3 different perspectives, 3 different life stories coming together to make this and to make decisions about this and everything like that. So I am extremely, extremely grateful for you. And also for supporting me when I got excited when cool people responded to my messages and things. Yeah, this has been very fun and beautiful. And who knows, maybe this won't be the last time the 3 of us do a queer thing for people to listen to.
More inside baseball. I set up we use a speak pipe to ask the survivors, like, can you film a message? And it was never not weird for me over the past month. Just be like, you have a message from Jeannie from Survivor. You have a message from, Reed from Survivor. Like, it was never not. It's still not weird, but I'm so thankful for all those folks who submitted clips, all the folks who agreed to sit down for a full form interview, conversation with you, Evvie, and everybody who listened, and all our podcaster friends who joined us a few weeks ago. So this has just been a delight. It's been a treat. Yeah.
And I've said it once, I'll say it again. Any queer kids out there, be yourself. You're amazing. Love yourself. Like, yeah. Woo. Love it.
You can support other queer people out there by buying the Pride Has Spoken t-shirt on the Rob as a Podcast store. Tweet at us, let us know what you thought of the show, all of that good stuff. Perhaps we'll be back before you know it, but for now, this is it. No,
this is it.
This is it.
I don't know how to end the show.
How do we end it? Do we end it? I don't know.
Really want to end it.
Do we end with plugs? Do plugs?
Happy Pride, everyone.
We probably should do plugs, but
plugs. Evvie, where do you want?
Yeah, let's capitalism.
Do we want to plugs or not plugs? We can easily edit this out. I'm right.
Let's do quick. We'll do quick plugs.
Okay. Maybe I could do a.
You do it. You intro.
Evvie. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Evvie, where could the people find you, keep up with you, and queerness, and all the other doctorly things that you do?
Yay. I am on Instagram as @Evvie Jag, and on Twitter and TikTok as @Evvie Jagoda. Follow me there. It's almost always queer stuff. So yeah.
People can I get a cameo from you?
Oh yes, and a cameo as well. If you want a personalized Pride Has Spoken message back at you, I am there doing that. So yeah.
We'll call it a personal video podcast just to like amplify it over cameo. Right. You could probably raise it by another $5. Yes.
A cameo and memo also. Which is
I think. Wow. Yeah. Grace, what about you? Where can the people keep up with you?
I do lots of stuff on post-show recaps, do lots of TV recaps. I don't have anything at the moment. The next big thing I'm going to do What We Do in the Shadows with the great Lindsay Wilson. Very excited for that.
Ooh.
That's a news drop. I've never announced that before. And I do weekly movie coverage. We're talking about Elvis next week. I think probably The Black Phone we'll do at some point. We did Lightyear. So yeah, lots of movie coverage. Over on Rob as a podcast, do the Ospie podcast, talk about sports. I have a very exciting guest this week. Ken from Gabon came to chat with me about esports.
Ooh,
So that is fun. And and anything else I'm doing, you can follow me at Hi from Grace on Twitter, and I'll tweet about it.
Yes,
Matt, what about
yes, we love it. Thanks for asking.
Mhm.
You could find me at Matt Scotchy W on the socials, especially on Twitter. I love me some tweets. And I'm on the Wrestling RHAP up here on RHAP. Check that out with me and Mari Forth talking about pro wrestling. You could also find me on Pod Friends interviewing some of your favorite pod friends. Very creative title. And so that's definitely another place. And there is other exciting stuff coming up this summer that I can't yet announce, but relates to Survivor and I'll just say a Survivor live reality game that I was part of that will be announced. So follow at Matt Scotchy W as I bring the queer representation to that game, which I will not name because it hasn't yet been announced. But we're here. We did plugs. We're just stalling so that we could keep podcasting together. But any final words? Like, Evvie, I'll put you on this spot for like some closing words here.
Oh man. I mean, this was just the best. And I really hope people enjoyed it. And I feel like throughout this, there's just been so many queer people that I feel like have been seen by this and also have said things to me of like, I don't know if I'm queer enough to be part of this or to be seen by this. And I just want you to know, if you're listening, you are queer enough. You are valid exactly as you are. And happy Pride to you, and happy Pride to everybody out there listening. And I love you all. I genuinely love you all.
Happy Pride.
Let's leave it there. Happy Pride. That's a beautiful message.